I always freeze at the start. Hello, my name's Anne and I'm one of the vicars in Bedworth parish. As a child, I went through the usual stages of what am I going to be when I grow up, and initially I was like, all right, I'm going to be a mum. Then it was like, right, no, I'm going to be a teacher, then a doctor, then it was a nurse, and then by the age of 14 I'd stumbled across an occupational therapist, and as I looked into this I was thinking more and more that this is what I feel like I want to be, and this fits with the things that God had given me. It mixed being creative and science as well. And so from the age of 14 I was really focused on doing what I needed to do to become an occupational therapist. At the same time, someone prayed for me in a youth group and they gave me a picture of somebody in a very stark area with lots of cracked concrete. They had a picture of me putting a flag of Jesus, like a stake in the ground in the middle of the concrete. And this picture really stayed with me. God has called me to be an ambassador for Him, an ambassador for Christ. So I had these two things in my life growing up as a teenager, that yes, I want to be an occupational therapist, but yes, I want to be an ambassador for Christ, even in dry and barren places. As a late teen, throughout university, I had a bit of a wobble. Felt like as part of that calling that God wanted me to go and live abroad, and I was like, no one gets married if they go and lives abroad, so I don't really like that calling. And at the end of university I felt like God's calling me back and saying, you've got to make a choice. Are you for me or are you not? I had really experienced God growing up. I knew what it was like to have a relationship with Jesus, so I was like, okay God, fine, I'm coming back, I'm going to follow you, whatever that means. I was praying to God and saying, okay, I'm coming towards the end of university, where do I go for a job? If you like, the world's my oyster, I can go anywhere. Ended up in this little town, or big town, Watford in Hertfordshire. I got my first job there as an occupational therapist. That was really based on using my head. Where would I like to go? Where's family? I had a gut reaction that this is the place I needed to be. I remember my first day at work, going in at this bright, shiny new occupational therapist in my crisp uniform. And as I went in, I had this little voice in my head going, you're not going to be here forever. And it was so clear, and I remember thinking, wow, that's a really weird thing to go through my head on my first day of a job that I've been working towards for many years. Where on earth did that come from? And that thought stayed with me for many years, and I'd come back to it over the years going, well, what on earth would I do? I love occupational therapy. I can't imagine being called to anywhere else, because this is what I'm meant to be doing. The year abroad, came back, did actually get married, and then carried on working as an occupational therapist. I think what I found as an occupational therapist is that God gave me favour in the workplace, and although I was painfully shy, God was opening doors of leadership. Because of that, I was being given opportunities to go on leadership training. In a church setting, I was like, I'm not a leader, there's no way you can get me at the front, that's the last thing on earth that God is calling me to. My husband became ordained in the Church of England, and as he was going on that journey, I felt like God also was challenging me and saying, are you in this as well? Are you willing to say yes to my calling to the Church of England? It was a bit of a process, but in the end I got there and I was like, okay, yes God, I do believe that you're calling me as well to the Church of England, and I got confirmed as part of my saying yes to God. At the same time, I was working as an occupational therapist, and there was a second opportunity to become a team leader, and I didn't feel any peace about it. I kept wrestling with it, and I remember praying to God and saying, you know, what is it you want me to do? In the church, I was seeing more and more that there were opportunities for leadership that people were not stepping up to, and I just felt this ache in me, an increasing pull towards the church. In the end, that led me to not even applying for the team leadership role. Really felt then to explore a call into ordination, and which has led to where I am, very surprisingly, today as a team vicar. I think sometimes we can get bogged down by what our calling and purpose is, and sometimes it can paralyse us. But I think we're all called to be ambassadors for Christ. It doesn't matter whether that's as an occupational therapist or a team vicar or wherever God might lead me in the future. That core calling of being his ambassador doesn't change. And I think that's the same for all of us, that we're all called to be God's ambassadors, to be his mouthpiece for Jesus. If we pray and commit our steps to God, we can trust that his purposes and his calling will reveal itself just as we take one step at a time for him.